Story.
I had flown for several years, and I was licensed for planes that had 4-place and 2-place. And I was flying some people that I had known for some time. And I checked the plane out before they arrived. And when you rent aircraft, the one that rents them should fill the tanks back up completely. Well, I had the people buckled in, and I started the engine, and I could see that the gasoline tanks are only half full. And I had promised my brother, who was older than I, but had been flying for, well, since he was 17 years old. And so I promised him I would use his philosophy in flying. I had called him and told him he didn't know I was even taking lessons. And when he heard that I had my license that day, we both wept because he loved flying so much. But here in this situation, the person who had rented it only filled it, no, he didn't even fill it because it was half full, and I promised my brother that I would use his philosophy, which was one, land on the numbers at the end of the runway, because you never can tell when your brake lines will burst, and you'll need every foot of the runway to stop. And secondly, always fly high, because when you are in trouble, you cannot use the altitude above you. You can only use what's below you. And the higher you are, the better chance you have of surviving. And thirdly, you can't use gasoline when you're in trouble that you left at the airport. So I filled it up, and then I didn't take time because it was a very hot August day, and my riders, they were anxious to get started. So I went out to the edge of the tarmac and got permission from the tower to take off on 180 runway. And so this was in
Lee Summit.
Lee Summit. And so I put the pedal to the metal and got up about 200 feet, and the engine died because the strainer to keep water out of the lines when they would fill the tanks. Evidently, it was not correct, and water had gotten into the carburetor and stopped the engine. Well, I did my very best to get the engine going, and it was falling and falling and falling. And so when I hit the ground, the engine started, and it was the throttle was down completely, and it was soft earth, and the plane wanted to somersault. And I had to keep the yoke up real tight to keep the nose up. And I knew I was headed for the woods, and there's nothing I could do about it. But just before we hit the limbs and trees, I hit the toggle switches to cut the engines away from remaining gasoline. And as we went into the woods, I saw the engine was really going, and it was headed for a tree, and the propeller, if it hit that tree, it would have thrown our bodies all over that area. And before I could do anything, the left rudder, that moves the plane, the left rudder went down halfway. And I tried to get it on more, and it was enough. And the propeller missed a tree about this big around by about 6 inches.
So it sheared, the trees sheared off the wings, but the cockpit itself was
Still
fine.
intact.
It was all intact. There was no fire.
Wow.
Everybody was,
That's crazy.
Wow.
It's a miracle.
everybody was okay.
In my first
And,
marriage, when my wife was upset with me, she was not pleasant.
how did we jump from?
Was
How did we jump from the airplane to the first
Well,
marriage?
it was close to the ground.
Oh. Okay, whatever.
We didn't have to climb down the trees.
Go ahead.
Oh.
But
It's close to the ground.
I would, my heart would stop on me
Okay.
when your mom was upset with me. And I would go to the jugular vein and there'd be nothing. And it would scare the wits out of me. But it was only for a few seconds and it would start again. And I'd have a light seizure. But I survived. But after the plane crash, I would black out.
Wow.
And so that's when
Got the pacemaker.
I got this little deal.
No, that's when you got the pacemaker.
Well, I got this little deal after the pacemaker. This has my medical history in it that's very important.
No,
Oh.
I don't.
Justice.
Justice, go on.
Oh, seriously? Here, I'll get it out of here.
Here.
I'm sorry, man.
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to squeeze where I couldn't squeeze. Sorry, sit fast.
That dog reminds me of